All right.
We don't just we're live, so we don't just jump right into it. You have to
Yeah, you know
give it
you
a
gotta
second.
do your
When
what's it?
when we get at least
Hey,
And then
15.
we gonna have to switch that up when we be like welcome, welcome, welcome.
we
We
maybe
gotta switch it to what up, what up, what
what
up,
up,
or
what up,
something.
what up, though.
No, somebody else say what up, what up.
Oh, who else say that?
I don't
Reggie
know.
Reg can say it.
That's a deep, I
What
mean, if
up?
you
What
come from
up? What's up?
yeah, you do it.
No, I ain't gonna say all
That sounds
that.
like Martin.
Yeah, we gotta say what up though.
No,
No, we can't say what up though. Age and them use that. We gotta come up with something.
but
Welcome,
their
welcome,
show, her
welcome.
show is called What Up Though, whatever's like
Yeah.
Fridays. What Up
No,
Though
but
Friday.
I think people used to hearing a welcome, welcome, welcome. When you
Yeah,
say that.
that's how I open up. When we start doing our big shows, that's gonna be
All
the
right,
opening.
all right,
When we
there
on
we
big
go.
stages with millions of people. Alrighty, welcome, welcome, welcome. I am Jenny. I don't even know my name.
You don't know your name? Ja Sales, Jonnita Stanton, what you call yourself? The real estate brat?
Yep, I'm definitely that. I'm trying to grow out of that though. I may be changing that moniker.
Why you call yourself the real estate brat after you turn 60?
Because it was you know how military children
Right.
are called military brats because they're on base
Oh,
and they
I
move
get it now.
around. Yeah,
All right.
that's
Hold on.
that's
Are
what
we
it was.
live right now?
Yeah, we like
How do I go? Like
nothing.
I can't
You
click on
just
them?
gotta start talking.
Okay,
I
when
can't
you
share it.
finish, just let me know.
Yeah, if you go to YouTube and
Oh, let
and
me see.
copy the link and share it
Oh,
with your
okay.
people.
Let me see if we're on
This
there.
our first live episode, y'all. So everybody
Yeah, we working
out
out
the
some
kinks.
kinks.
Mm-hmm. I
So
mean, but like technically, we're so I say live right here. Technically, we're not supposed to just jump right into the conversation, anyways.
yes,
We have
we
to
do.
allow people to
Come in.
come in.
So you know how you familiar with the song of Rock Wilder with Method Man, Redman? How Method Man just started out before the beat dropped. That's what we doing today.
No,
Yes,
okay.
it is. He wasn't supposed to when Rock Wilder said they wasn't supposed to record the song like that. And Method Man was like, but I wrote it like that. So I'm letting y'all know I'm starting before the beat drop.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am Jonnita Stanton. We have Reginald Perryman, Kashka Williams. We are TSARE, and this is the There's Something About Real Estate podcast where we talk all things real estate. Now we can jump into it.
All right. The beat drop. So what's going on in the market today? We got some hot stuff for a hot summer.
You know what? I'm just here. I'm just here today for the conversation and for the knowledge.
All right. So you had sent the article earlier saying like some cities, was it certain states or certain cities?
It was certain cities or states that are. It was the actually. Let's pull the. We're not gonna read the article, but we are gonna pull it up for reference.
All right. So basically, they were saying like they're at risk of their home values dropping by 15 to 20%.
Mm-hmm.
So what's your thoughts on that happening here in the Metro Detroit area?
In the current market
Yeah,
or in the future?
in the current
In the
market.
current market, I don't think so.
Yeah,
I don't see it. I don't think that in the current market, I think that it's getting ready to slowly switch over to the buyer's market. But I don't think that automatically means that your house loses value.
right,
This
right,
means that, you're gonna have to be a little bit more reasonable on what you are expecting,
right,
right? But you shouldn't lose value.
right. And then the other thing is just going to be more of a balanced market. So I think what's going to happen is, and we're seeing it now. So like homes that were taken, that was selling in 1 week, they're selling in 3 weeks.
Mhm.
But what I keep reminding people is a normal market is 30 to 45 days on the market.
Spoiled.
Yeah, people just got used to their home selling in the first week. So now everybody's calling and saying, "Hey, we got um my home's been on the market a week or 2 weeks and what happened?" Or you get a deal fall through and people are like, "What's going
Or
on?"
a week. Like
Yeah.
they like, what? It's been on the market 5 days.
Yeah.
What?
That's
So I have something that I think I don't know that it's gonna be a drop or a decline.
right.
However, it may not be a $50,000 above ask price
Right.
offer, which essentially will reset to normal or typical. I can't even say like so like whatever the going rate is. So let's say like if you were expecting because a house sold for 500,000 and the market was, or you're expecting the house to sell for 650 and the market was for 600.
Right.
So you may just have people starting to offer 600.
Right.
And so now you're going to get more sales at 600 instead of 650.
Right. So like the people that were so no and the scenarios we was running across up until now, house was 600, you get 14, 15 offers, somebody offers 620, somebody offers 640, somebody say 650 with appraisal guarantee and that type of thing. We're probably just going to see that home sell for 600, maybe 605.
Right.
Unless there's a lot more competition, then somebody may be lucky and get it at 590 if
And
the seller's desperate.
yeah.
Right.
And then I guess that also would depend on the conversation that the person's having with the with that the listing agent is having with the seller as well, because they may look at it and say, well, this is what you see the houses being listed at, and then this is the overage. So are we going to list at where all these other ones are at? So if you see 6 houses and they all listed at between 600 and 610,
Right.
but then you see sales at 650, 660.
Right.
So are we going to list at the 660, or are we going to list at the rate that they were listed at?
660. 660 is the current is the value. So I don't see you going down in your value. If we do that, then that 10 to 15% is true.
Right.
Now,
But I think it's going to come to the individual sellers too, because some sellers are going to be more desperate than others, and they're going to price their homes below market value or right at market value and end up accepting a lower offer.
so I don't think so. I mean, I know that's a possibility. That
Right.
can happen on occasion, right? I think that we may get back to the days of where you may have seller concessions.
Yeah.
You know what I
yeah,
mean? So
Right.
you may have some concessions now, but I don't see you going. That's a huge drop.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
from
Well,
600
But is it a drop? That's
650.
my
I was-
argument. Is
Yeah,
it a,
Yeah.
it's a drop. It's a drop. If the comp was at 650, so if less than 6 months ago, or the last 90 days, the house that's comparable to that sold at 650, and now that house is selling at 600,000, yeah, that's a
but
drop.
what if you got 4 other ones that sold for 600?
Then
Then
well,
that was never the 650
Yeah,
was never
the real comp.
value.
Exactly. So that's what I'm
Right.
saying. Just because we have 1 or 2 sales, if we have 2 sales at 650 and
Right.
4 at 600, it doesn't mean that the area dropped. It just means that maybe the buyers went back to traditional bidding tactics.
It depends on how.
Yeah.
So if the 600, if it was 650 and then the other 4 houses sold after that and they went to 600, that's a drop.
Yeah.
If it was 600, 610, 609, and then went to 650, then yeah, I think your house is still gonna sell for 650.
Because the thing is the comps give you the basis, right? But then the buyers determine the ultimate market value based on what type of offers they're making.
Mhm.
So what I think a lot of these articles and a lot of the media, they don't understand too. Because we see articles, oh, people are starting to drop their home prices. Well, we know from being in the business, a lot of people were overpriced to start.
Voila.
So you have the market going this way, and let's say homes in the area was selling for 400,000, and you seen another one sell for 410. Couple months later, you see the next 2 homes sell for 420, 430. Then you get that one seller to say, I'm just going to list mine at 450. Well, no, that's the wrong thing to do because you so far ahead of where that ball is going to drop. You'd be better off listing at 420 and letting the market bid it up. And
So
that person
was that
would drop their
450?
price.
I'm sorry, I missed a little bit. Was the 450 in the $600 sales?
No,
Oh,
we're
okay.
talking about
He just gave a
we're
different scenario.
talking
this
about
scenario.
an area like over the past year or 2 or 3 years, you've seen values appreciating. So one house sold at 400, the next one may have sold at 410, the next one was listed at 410 but sold for 420. So everything was selling above asking price. You get that one seller that says, well, if the market is going up, why don't I start at the higher price? Well, most people, if you got 13 buyers that are looking in at 400 to 420, you start at 450, you're gonna knock out most of those buyers except the one or two that probably would have paid 450, right? But if you start down to 420, now you get more competition and they drive the values up.
That's what
And
sellers don't understand.
but here's what the media is seeing though. They're seeing those people at 450, 4 of them reduce their price, and then the media is like, oh, home values are starting to drop because we're seeing price reductions. No, those people were just too far ahead of the market.
Overpriced.
Yeah.
And I also think that it's going to depend. So each price point is going to be different as well. So and those we talking big numbers, 600,000, 400,000. Those are going to be a little bit different. I think that the more affordable housing, I don't think you're going to run into that as quickly.
Yeah, and then we got to think about two price points. So here in our area, we have, you have homes 100,000, 80,000. 10% is $8,000. So 10, it's a lot to the seller, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not a lot. So maybe that person can still get 80, but they offer concessions. So even hold on, we got
what market is this that Reggie is in?
He's just giving a scenario.
So Brandy Jenkins is watching us now. She says, I can see sellers having to offer concessions, like we mentioned, right?
Yep.
So that's going back to more of that balanced market where you don't have 13 buyers per home. Maybe you have just 1 or 2. And you just need to get your home sold. So yeah, I'll give up $5,000 towards closing costs.
Definitely.
To get my home sold. Especially if I paid 80 for it when I brought it 7-8 years ago and now it's worth 240.
Even if you just like you just said, I don't want to say desperate, but if you just like want to get this deal done. So now sellers are not going to be able to be greedy anymore.
Right.
You're not going to put your house on the market at a price. And then you get that offer on your first offer, and now you want to sit there and wait 2 more days so that you can try to get people to bid it up.
Right.
No, you better take that offer.
Yeah.
But the concessions, I think even that's not necessary. That's like a misnomer sometimes. It doesn't always mean, so it's always going to come out of the seller's profit for sure. But sometimes the buyer also finances that, but above what the ask price was.
Offer above, right.
Yeah.
They gotta appraise, I mean, it got to appraise, right? It's got to appraise. So, and that takes away from their appraisal amount. So now that the concession takes away from
she's saying what the buyer's end result is, because sometimes even though they're getting concessions, the buyer still paid for it by increasing the price.
Yeah, and the seller can.
But you're saying it still got to appraise.
Yeah, because they didn't increase the price. So for that to happen, that means that you're selling it under market. So you would be having to sell
really.
it. Yeah. So
not really, because when the appraisers look at the comps, they do look at what concessions were paid.
Because that lowers the comp. So that's my point. So in order for you to go up on the price, that means that you had it listed for less than what it was worth. In order for you to go up to give seller concessions, that means that your realtor had it listed for less than what it was worth.
But and sometimes that happens though. But that doesn't necessarily mean that. So sometimes when a listing happens, a seller has an amount that they need or want or whatever it is, their desirable dollar.
Right.
And then they come to some sort of agreement and they put that house on the market.
Right.
And then the seller plus the listing agent somehow may feel like, I've had this happen where they feel like this is what the house is worth.
Right.
And I'm sitting here going, I'm sorry you feel that way, but I guarantee we'll be fine when this appraisal comes in.
Right.
So I'm not saying what you're saying is not necessarily true. However, they had supporting material. They had some sort of support for somewhere to come up with that price that they listed it for.
Right.
But my point is, there's only one way for that to happen, is if it appraises at that number. There has to be. So their appraiser not just pulling that number out their ass.
Sometimes
they got to go find proof, right? They have to have something that is comparable to it.
But sometimes that one property, nothing else sold for $250. Everything else sold for $235, $240. You get a $250 deal, and sometimes it appraised for other. Maybe there's a little bit more square footage. You factoring in concessions, condition, updates, and everything like that. Because you got to keep in mind, every day there's a comp that's breaking a record for that neighborhood.
But that's the point. So there was a reason for it, and you can find it.
But you couldn't project that house was worth more.
Yes, you can.
Not
So
all
if
the time.
you can, well, we've been doing this a long time. So if I
Well,
see a
we're not
house that's
talking
sold for
about
230, right? If a house sold for 230,
right,
and then I'm bringing my house on the market, and my house is a little bit bigger than that house and more updated than that house, I don't think my house is going to come in at 230. I think my house is going to come in higher, 240, 250. I don't have a 230, 240 or 250 comp out there, but I got a
right,
230 comp, and my house is larger and better.
right. That's a
So
good
it's
way
going
to
to,
look at it.
yeah,
And you're taking a risk assuming that the appraiser is going to adjust for those updates,
yes,
right?
yeah.
Because we know that every seller doesn't know that, and neither does every buyer.
So I guess all I'm saying is when we're talking about concessions, and I'm probably an expert at concessions. I'm just saying, it's just what it is. I work for my buyers in that way.
All right.
She's a buyer specialist.
So
Be
if
bold.
if there is a house that is listed and we're talking about some concessions coming back, it could mean that the house has been on the market for 25 days, and because it's been on the market for 25 days, I'm going to go ahead. You're asking 250, we'll give you 250, and then give us $5,000 off of the 250. Or why don't you give us, let's write it for 253, and then you still give us $5,000, and then we can run the risk of that $3,000
Right.
over sales.
Right.
Whatever. Now, what you're saying is something that would be yet to be predicted. If I come in here, you got the house listed for 250. It's been on the market for 30 days. We offer you 259 and say give us $9,000 back. And then you say yes. Now you're gonna be mad after the fact because you didn't list it at 259 and it appraised.
That's my point.
So that's what
you run into me as. So I'm not, my seller is not accepting that offer. So just because you came in, so I just had one similar to this,
Right.
which I would not have accepted the offer. But so I can't say my seller is not accepting that offer. If my seller listens to me and my advice, they won't be accepting that offer, right? So the seller could do, they get to choose whatever they want. But if they listen to me, your offer is not the offer that I'm going with because I don't think that it's going to appraise at that number. I don't have anything to prove that to
So
me.
And what I'm
So I'm
saying
not willing to
is
take
I've
that risk.
had listing agents that are talking to their sellers like
Right.
this, and then when our appraisal comes in, and because they ultimately
This why you
accepted our
don't sell
offer.
none of his listings.
I mean,
No,
we're not gonna have that conversation,
Right.
but what I'm saying is
You gonna have to
I
negotiate.
know that I've been on the other end with a listing agent advising their sellers not to accept, and then they ultimately accept, and then we're moving forward in the transaction
Right.
And you
with no problem.
But hold on, it's a flip side of that. You've also been on the side to where that person has lost money.
I have not.
So you never been in a situation where you asked for seller concessions, you boosted the price up, asked for seller concessions, and then it came back appraised less than which are offered to that?
No. And
Right.
we can go pull some contracts from 10 years ago that where maybe I missed some. So
Reggie,
I'm
have
not
you had
going
that?
to just
So-
say, but no, I haven't.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
that's
not been my
common though.
experience.
That's common.
Here's how I'm proactive with that, right? So Jaja got a house listed for 300, right? Buyer wants concessions. Seller says I'm not giving concessions. Then Jaja comes back and say we're gonna offer 310 with 10,000 back in concessions or whatever the number is, right? 10,000 back in concessions. My question to Jaja is, we'll do this. My seller's fine. But if it doesn't appraise, what's your backup plan? Does the buyer have the extra money? Let's say it appraised for 305, which is possible, right? Then does your buyer have the other 5,000? If she tells me no, then I'm gonna say we might have to work something out or do the structure
I
of the
have two
deal
answers.
different.
Go ahead.
So go
I'm sorry,
ahead.
go ahead.
My two. So we have prior to this market.
Right.
My answer in a lot of scenarios it would be no. We just have to cross that path when we get there.
No, see, I
Now,
can't put my seller.
in this market, so I will be honest, I'm a little bit more timid about the concessions because I don't know how the appraisers are going to go
Right.
because of where we are in space and time with the pricing.
Right.
It's yet to be seen. This is all prediction. So when I'm going in and I have to ask for concessions, I am sweating bullets because it to Shaka's point, it could come back less.
Right.
And so what's happening here is, you know what? The buyer is good in these areas. Maybe by the time we get the appraisal back, some things may have changed and now they can get grant assistance.
Right.
So you
Or
can continue to let your house sit, or you can enter this contract, leave your house active, and let us, order the appraisal. and you don't lose marketing time, but at least we get that question mark out of
You
the
get
way.
the appraisal out the way.
If you
I mean, that's the way to do it, but we got to keep our clients in mind. So if I got a seller that needs to sell this house to buy another house, if it's a scenario where we got multiple offers, I have to find out what your plan B is.
Oh yeah,
Right.
absolutely. Why would
But
you be
if it's
accepting concessions in a multiple offer
yeah,
situation?
but if it's
That's my
if it's
point.
if because we're talking about the market we're in now, and then like you said, a year ago, if I had a house listed for 300,000 and you wrote it for 310, by by the time the appraiser get there, it's gonna be worth 310, right? Because everything was appreciating.
You
So
talking about
we
a
had
year ago, right?
yeah, we had more confidence that the appreciation was gonna be there, right? Now, now as a listing agent, you have to ask those hard questions because if it don't come back at that, what are you gonna do? And then you have to ask your seller, look, if the appraisal comes back less, are you still willing to give up
No,
concessions?
I agree with that because those are all you're right. For my sellers, I will be having those same conversations. But I'm just saying that if it's a multiple offer situation, I don't think concessions are even on the table, and I
Yeah,
don't think that's
yeah.
it's a moot
But
point.
The reason
in
we
that
brought it
scenario.
up is because we're going to be headed back towards that type of
Right,
market.
but it would not. We wouldn't. So if the house has multiple offers, that means probably it's a lot of you got offers that are going to be what is it, way more likely to close than something that has concessions or different types of financing that are more riskier and things like that. So I think when we're talking about concessions, we're not also mixing that in with the multiple offer
Right.
scenario.
So hold on. So that's why you saying that. So that's why she's saying that. She's not. I don't think that we're going to the multiple offer situation is not going away.
It's not going away.
So so then we're talking about the current and future market. So current market right now. So yes, if you find a house right now that's been on the market for 30 days, yeah, you can ask for seller concessions because the house has probably been overpriced. That's why you can ask for that. But
Right.
that's why they don't have a multiple offer situation. But if I have a house that's priced right, even if it did stay on the market for 7, 10, 15 days, I'm still probably gonna have multiple offers.
Right.
Your buyer coming to ask me for selling concessions. One, the first thing I'm thinking is they don't have any money. That's my first thought. So if it does come back less appraised for less, we're SOL. This deal basically is dead. That buyer has no money. They need these concessions. Otherwise, you wouldn't even ask because that makes your offer weaker. So the only way you could do that is in a situation that you're
Yeah, so
explaining where a house has been on the market way longer than normal. So yeah, you can do it. You can get creative like that, but not on a regular. Not if your house is priced
Right.
right.
so we're talking about normalcy.
Mhm.
More than 15 days is not necessarily abnormal. In this past 18 months or so,
Right.
24,
But
give or
sellers
take.
think so.
But
But it is.
It's
What's
not
days on market within the
it's
last
not
90 days?
so that's what
Yeah.
we're discussing, getting back to normal. Normal
Normal
would
was 30 to
be
45
exactly.
days.
How long
And
ago?
so
Shoot, probably like I want to say maybe
Before the
4
pandemic?
years ago. 4
Yes,
or
we're
5
talking
years.
about current.
Yeah,
So
but
current right now, what's
we're
days
talking
on
about where we're
market?
but we're
going,
talking about where we're going as
where we
well. So
headed.
right now you're probably about 2 weeks, whereas before it
14.
was a couple days.
Okay. So
Right.
we have 14 days.
So
all
you
right.
have, and then some of the numbers are mixed up because the way most MLS calculate days on the market, a lot of them are different.
Mhm.
So I may have an offer, an agent may have an offer, but it may not market pending until after the inspection.
Mhm.
So in the MLS, it may look like 15 days. You
Right.
got your offer, your highest and best deadline is 3 days from now. It's still showing those days are still counting. Inspection period, 7 days. Then you negotiate something, then you mark it pending.
Mhm.
So to the MLS and all the stats, it looks like 10 or 15 days on the market. When in reality, you had 17 offers on day 2,
Right.
right? So we have to pay attention to that. But that's something only we would know that the average public don't
I think
see.
that's the
Right.
reason for accepting backup offers. Isn't that why that came about?
It is, but you're still gonna have your days on the market still ticking.
But no, if you
Right.
if you click on accepting
But
backup offers,
accepting backup offers just came out like in the past year.
right?
So, but all MLS systems don't have that. So when we're looking at data overall, it's not gonna show that.
So you mean you talking about what we talking about here in our market? In
Right.
our market, it's going to show it. Here in our market, it's going to
Right.
show that it went off the market 2 days with the accepting backup
If
offer.
the agent marks it
Right.
pending or changes the
So what
status.
Reggie is saying is like a lot of agents do not do. I have a house right now that we have under contract. It's still active
Right.
because we are not through the appraisal and they want to continue to market.
So that agent is doing a disservice.
It's not a
little
disservice
bit.
because we're under
Well,
contract.
So here-
Oh, you're saying to the seller.
Let me give you a scenario that happened, why that makes sense, right? And this is why. So I really prefer agents, listing agents, to mark their properties accepting backup offers. Like we said before, you don't waste the buyer's agent's time. That's for a home that's been on the market 7 days, you're showing it, but you already got an offer accepted. You got 12 backup offers. So I had a agent submit an offer on the property. It had just came back on the market. We had 2 offers, so we accepted one offer. I sent them an email back saying the seller accepted your offer. Here's the signed contract. He's like, oh, great. I'll send it to the lender and everything. So a couple days went by, 7 days went by, and I'm like, wait, you guys having a private inspection? Crickets, no word back. And I said, by the way, here's the city inspection we already completed. He said, oh, hey, cool. Maybe my buyer would be fine with this. We already had the appraisal from the previous deal.
FHA.
Yeah, I'm checking in. I checks in. This just happened today. So I checks in like, hey, no private inspection. I just need to confirm you guys were waiving that. And it's the lender definitely going to use the previous appraisal because it was an older appraisal, but it was still within that timeline. So I get an email back. Oh, the buyer never bottom lined the contract. So I'm like,
that is not so. Okay, this is my problem with the bottom line. It's outdated practice.
Yep.
We no longer deliver mail
right
by hand.
Exactly.
I mean, we do, but
Thank
not for
you.
purchase agreements.
Right.
We have electronic delivery. The bottom line means nothing. If
The
your
bottom-
seller signs, your seller accepted
It's a pending contract. I'm glad you said that. So here's the thing. If I make an offer, you accept my offer, and there's no changes,
That's the
there's no
thing.
need to bottom line it. It's an acceptance. Now, if I make an offer and change something, you have to initial and bottom line it,
Absolutely.
acknowledging receipt of those changes and that you agree to it. So some people use that as an escape to say we never bottom lined it.
Right.
Now, on the flip side, if I had that agent sitting there, they paid for appraisal and inspection, and then I said, oh, my seller accepted another offer because you never bottom lined it, that agent would be mad as hell, right?
Exactly.
So we, as realtors and how we explain things to the general public, we got to make sure you're not using something to save face on one end that's going to hurt you on
They
another
honestly need
side.
to get rid of the bottom line because you can initial changes and date them.
Right.
I've used the bottom line as a loophole in the same way you're talking about because
Yeah,
I
I'm
know the
pretty
loopholes.
sure you did because you work with buyers.
But
all
I
the
mean,
time.
no, so I work for everybody. So one thing about me when it comes to work, it's fair to everybody. And if I understand the loophole, and loopholes means that it's legal, nothing was wrong here. Maybe somebody's feelings got hurt.
I don't mean it's fair.
I said honest.
You said fair.
Well, I
You said
mean,
it's
no,
fair to
whatever.
everybody.
But,
It's not fair.
But what I'm saying is, if there's something that has come up, and also, to me, it's like it's a time factor too, right? So I tell my buyers all the time, like, look, if there's gonna be some sort of remorse or a change of heart or something going on, let's do it early, 24, 40 hours, but before the EMD, during the inspection period. But we're not getting ready. These people will come after your money, and you will acknowledge that we had this here conversation.
Here's the thing: if I would have never sent that email today, they would have never said nothing on my buyers. If I got an accepted offer and I'm living by the bottom line, if I didn't hear from my buyer in 2 to 3 days, just so that I can keep a good relationship and save my reputation with agents in the market, I'm gonna say, look, man, my buyer just is not responsive. then we don't have a bottom line contract, so we're gonna back out.
So
And we deal with it early and let the seller move on with their life. We're sitting 2 weeks.
So look, every purchase agreement doesn't have a bottom line though.
Exactly.
Most of them do.
But every one of them don't. So
but
you
that's
don't
why I
have
call
to
BS on it though,
you know
right?
what I'm saying? So you don't have
I
to
wish they
use
just
or
really
even
need to get rid of
accept
it.
the bottom line. You can say, hey, I don't like this.
I like what they did with and so I don't know how many other contracts but I know the KW contract that they used, they added that counter offer line. So I think that's good. But somebody need to get with legal and
you don't have to use a purchase agreement with a bottom line.
They just need to get rid of the
don't
bottom line.
use it.
So
or don't
I want
accept
to
it.
talk about legal something
before you because I've been waiting just
go ahead.
all right. Because I want to clear something up. People that need concessions, I have asked concessions for buyers that have a lot of money, but they want to leave their money liquid and they want to finance some of the costs so that they can keep their money liquid. Just because you're asking for concessions doesn't mean that you're a broke person or you don't have money. That's not necessarily.
But it makes your offer weaker.
In this market, in a multiple offer scenario, it does. But in some of these houses where they don't have other offers going in, yes, it does make your offer weaker.
That's all I said.
It doesn't.
It does not.
I'm gonna tell you why it doesn't.
No, in a multiple offer scenario where you have appraisal guarantees, escalation clauses, and damn near I will pay cash for this house.
Right.
And don't worry about anything. You're probably going to look over the offer with concessions. But I'm talking about in a regular scenario where you see a house and it's like, oh, let's go after this house. I like it. And then maybe it's a little outdated. And as a matter of fact, why don't we see if we can get some concessions back so that I can leave some of my money liquid? There are different reasons that you ask for concessions. It's not always that I don't have the money to close.
So I'm gonna tell you, right? I've had offers where we had multiple offers. And the way the agent presented their offer with concessions and the wording they had. And again, when I asked them, what's your plan B if it doesn't appraise? They said the buyer got the money. They just prefer not to use it if they don't have to. The way the offer was structured, the seller was going to accept it.
Proof of funds?
Yeah, you get proof of funds. So anytime I got an appraisal guarantee, I get proof of funds for the difference, right? So plus the loan rep was solid. They were just like, we just want concessions because this is what the buyer's trying to do after they move in. But if everything else fails, if it doesn't appraise for this higher amount, they'll just come and we'll close, right? So it does on the surface, it makes the offer look like it's not the best offer. I always prepare the seller to make your offer based on the net, right? So if somebody offered you more, but they want concessions, we compare nets, not sales price, right?
The issue is the issue still. Go ahead.
Yeah, but I'm saying in most scenarios, the offer with concessions is going to be a weaker offer.
Okay,
right.
That's all I'm saying.
But sometimes you can structure the offer, and this is why you don't try to burn agents with the bottom line BS or BS to get out of deals, because once you build relationships with people and you have a reputation of actually closing, then you can have those conversations. Look, I have a buyer, they got X amount of dollars or whatever. They're just asking for concessions because they want to do this to the house after they move in. Maybe they want to do upgrades or whatever. If it don't appraise, fine, they'll just bring their own money to the table. When they got it, here's proof of funds. So when you have that type of conversation, that builds a little bit more confidence with the seller and or the listing agent.
So listen, real quick. So y'all keep going. We talking about current market right now.
Right.
Now maybe it may be in 2 months, 3 months from now.
Yeah.
I would agree with you.
But it's gonna be some people that's gonna watch this 2 or 3 or next year and be like, oh yeah, Jaja was kicking gems about concessions.
But what she's saying is true. That we're going to that. That's when we started off the conversation saying that we are going to where sellers are going to have. I think we're going to see more seller concessions. I agree with that. But that doesn't take away from the fact that in this current market, seller concessions makes your offer look weaker.
Right.
Yeah, there are some things. If you have a really good agent, Jonnita, not Reggie. If you have a really good agent like Jonnita that's working with the buyer, she knows, she has relationship with the selling agent like Reggie. She's going to be able to get your deal accepted because you do a lot of deals that are with seller concessions
in this market.
In this market, she's been doing it the entire time. So, but it still makes it's still it's a particular house that you're getting with that offer though.
Right.
Yeah, but they're
Right.
used. I mean, just so that's the waves I think we're talking about in the industry, because the shiny blinged out house, I was getting concessions on those too, just not in the last, what's this? Probably not since January,
Right.
because this market is just not calling for it. But also when I'm talking to sellers, I'm having the conversation of like, stop putting shiny shit in your house right now because you don't need to.
Right.
Why
Stop
are you
doing
spending
Right.
overdoing it.
$20,000 to get the same $20,000 back? So the conversations with people are going to change depending on what's going on in the market. And I think we're just kind of talking about like, okay, we've been in this like, crazy stressed out market with people bumping in the walls and springs and nuts and
Right.
bolts popping out of their heads, and buyers trying to get houses and sellers trying to get their bags. And it's like, okay, is this gonna continue to where the person that does need concessions or a grant program or has a 620 credit score instead of an 800, like, are
Right.
these people still going to be able to buy houses? Those people still matter. They still need a place to live.
Right.
And I think that they need to have hope that,
But they're going to matter even more than ever now coming up.
Need to get a house,
because they're the
be able
buyers.
to
So
get a house.
it's going to transfer into a buyer's market. So they're going to have a little bit more control of their
It's
destiny.
going to be a balanced market before it's a buyer's market.
Do we have any questions?
No, but shout out to Deshaun Smith and Marlon Davis.
My man.
Yeah, just checked in.
You gotta shout out Brandy too for jumping on here asking some questions.
Yeah. So
hey girl, hey.
All right. So when we talked about, I know we kind of touched on this before, right? And we talked about pre-approvals. I think there should be some type of law or something in place regarding an approval versus, actual loan commitment and pre-qual. Because I don't think people really understand, like when you got sellers out here, especially in this market, you got sellers that they're selling and they have to move or they need to move, and you tie their property up for 2 months, and then the buyer does something like buy a car. And the way everything is now, as long as they get a loan denial letter, you consider that not default. It's not default.
Okay,
right?
I got a question.
But you have lenders now saying, I'm not going to give you a denial letter because you're going to go out tomorrow. Or let's say the buyer does qualify, right? And the buyer just changed their mind. And the escape is to get a denial letter. Hey, such and such, can you give me a denial letter? My buyer's trying to back out. We want to save the EMD. Lender give a denial letter. Next day, the buyer says, okay, I found another house. You go and submit the offer. Guess who's the listing agent? The same one you just withdrew the offer with, right? So how does that
They didn't pay no attention to that, the buyer's agent?
Right.
I'm saying it happens. Or you submit an
offer. But no,
offer.
I want to add, so I'm trying to figure out, okay, the buyer was pre-approved.
Right.
Supposedly.
No.
The buyer, hold on.
Right.
The buyer was pre-approved.
Right.
And then they got under contract, and maybe you're 14 days in.
Right.
And then the buyer goes and buys a car.
Right.
And then now they don't qualify. And then the interest rate also went up on top of it.
Right.
They no longer financially qualify.
Right.
And then you're saying that what's the law that's supposed to be put in place when they no longer qualify?
I'm just saying what's considered default. See, people lean on, oh, I can't get a loan now. My loan is denied or rejected, and that's the reason I should get my EMD back. But what caused that loan to get rejected or denied?
If it's interest rate, that'd be different. If it's because you bought the car,
I'm not talking about, we can't control rate increase. We can't control death. We can't control illness or job loss. That's different. I'm talking about our contract state, we are working together to get this closed. If the buyer intentionally goes to do something to cause their loan to be denied, like we see it all the time, people just won't pay their credit card bill this month, or they'll pay it late. Oh, I didn't know I had to keep paying it on time. It was only $20. Well, you got to prove based on your credit. Why would you mess your credit up?
That's why it's too hard to do what you're saying, because ignorance. So some people really don't know. So I agree with you. So if somebody, and now how are you going to determine if they did it on purpose or they knew what they were doing?
But this is what I'm saying. Like it has to be something to. I had my house off the market for 2 months, waiting to close. Maybe gave you an extension because you're working on some stuff. and then you go and do something like finance furniture,
Mhm.
right? And you don't have a house
And
yet.
I was trying to buy mine. Get ready.
They don't know.
Yeah.
So that's the problem.
But this is what I'm saying. How far does I don't know go when you just tied me up for 2 months? You mean through this whole process, especially if you like missed or something, you went to a buyer educational class to get approved. So you can't, I'm just saying the market can't keep telling buyers you can get out of the contract.
But they said
this
too.
way.
Everybody said.
I
The
can tell you.
seller
I
per-
can
the
tell you what
seller-
they could
so-
do.
So if
I
it's
can
a
tell you what you
real,
could do, how to fix
so
it.
you got real people who scheming. I'm not taking
Right,
up for them.
right.
But the people that's really not scheming, everybody at a loss. The buyer also are, they're not getting the place that they thought they were going to be living in for the next
Right.
20 years.
Here's a way to
But-
fix it, though. The
How
simple
you
way.
fix it?
Wording in an addendum that states that you can, so you don't have to just use the wording that's strictly
Buyer
in
shall
the purchase
not.
agreement. Yeah, if you want to change the wording
Let me
in
get
the
Erica's
purchase
Okay.
agreement,
So
you
Wait a
can
minute.
fix that.
buyers should listen to Erica.
Yeah,
right?
hold on,
Or
let's get Erica's
if
notes. They're
buyer,
right
Don't
here.
buy a
if
car,
buyer
don't
doesn't
apply for new
achieve
credit.
financing for these reasons, then
Well-
you're going to lose this portion of your
Okay, we
earnest
got it
money
right here.
deposit.
Listen. All right, go ahead.
You ready?
Yep.
Thank you for choosing Gold Star Mortgage for your financial needs. We take great pride in creating home financing experience that is smooth and transparent. Below is a mortgage checklist requesting necessary documentation and information to get your loan approved. Please fax or email the items on this checklist prior to making an offer.
Right.
So that means they want the documents to get
prior to,
prior
like
to,
you should do.
and then also take notes of the 10 Commandments. And what are the 10
The
Commandments?
10 Commandments. 1.
She didn't put the 10
She ain't
Commandments on
messed
here.
up. She ain't even
No,
follow up.
hold on. Oh, here they go. Thou shalt not change jobs, become self-employed, or quit a job. 2, do not buy a car, truck, or van. 3,
What about a motorcycle?
or a motorcycle.
Or a
She
ski-
said,
a
look, no,
jet
look.
ski.
This says, or you may be living in it.
All right.
You gotta love her. Thou shalt not use charge cards excessively or let your accounts fall behind. Thou shalt not omit debts or liabilities from your loan application. Thou shalt not buy furniture.
Right.
7, originate any kinds of inquiries into your credit. Thou shalt not make large deposits without first checking with your loan officer. Thou shalt not change bank accounts. Thou shalt not co-sign for any loan for anyone else.
I thought these
Right.
were 7 commandments. How many, or 10? How
That
many
was
is this?
10.
Oh, it's 10
10.
of them.
But she had some like parentheses. That one, that's funny. Do not buy a car, truck, or van, or you may be living in it.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
All right.
But that's so.
But
That's
we've
the
had
fix,
two.
right?
We've had 2 of our buyers right now that have done at least 2 of those things out of this list.
And the third was
Well,
about to.
I
Yeah.
had 3 contracts this year where the seller, we worded it and it worked on one. So she wants it on every contract. She will not sign a contract. It's saying that the buyer will forfeit the deposit, and she lists all the reasons,
Mhm.
right? And she says including mortgage denial, right?
There it is.
And what caused this was because we had a deal fall through because of one lender, and she just, for some reason, she just don't like this lender because 3 deals fell through on the same house with the same lender.
Is it a big lender or a
Right.
small lender?
It's a lender. So she has another house she's selling, right? We had an offer on it, and the buyer backed out for whatever for the repairs. Seller said I was gonna do the repairs, but they was just like, nah. So she went and did the repairs just so she can meet all the stuff on the inspection report because it was a flip anyway.
Mhm.
So we got another offer, and it was this lender. And I told the agent, I said, you know what? Based on this, my seller just really don't like the lender, but she likes the price, and she wants to sell this property. So the agent comes back and say, oh, my buyer is good. The buyer works for the lender,
Mm.
not as a LO, but as a salary employee.
Mm.
So I go back to the seller. I'm like, well, if this don't work, you know what I'm saying? I understand you don't like the lender, but I don't think they're gonna deny this lady. 3 weeks later, guess what we get?
They denied her.
That was
de-
Rocket or
A
Quicken.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna say
denial.
it.
We get a denial letter. Guess why it's denied?
based on income
No,
or employment?
no, she worked there.
I know, that's what I was
she
saying. Like,
still
maybe she lost
working
her
there.
job.
No, she ain't
Credit?
get laid off. Nope, not because of credit. They said the property taxes on the property was too high.
Oh, they
And I'm like,
They
dude,
found the way through it.
y'all didn't run those
They
numbers.
found the way
Y'all
through
didn't
it.
run those
That's
numbers
a good.
when you
That's a
made
good
the,
lender right there. No,
when you made the offer, right? So of course the seller got the $2,000 deposit because
Right.
of the way she worded
Worded
it.
it.
So, but
So that's the
I
fix,
think
you
that's a
said.
great
But
idea,
they
though.
still needed a mutual release.
Mm.
But look,
Because the title company we had in her contract, she got that her title company will hold the EMD, but they still wanted a mutual
but a lot of
release.
times when buyers sign those documents and they have a clear understanding up front, they don't mind. In some situations, they don't mind signing that mutual release because they already had a previous conversation outlining that they will be losing a deposit in the event that this happens.
That's true too.
I mean, it's simple,
And some
right?
different states are different though. I think Michigan one of
But I think Shaka hit on a good point. So like, but I mean, it's a great idea. Like them 10 commandments there.
Yeah.
For people that we are coaching and counseling and
Right.
just, really need the help.
Yep.
You might have to sign an addendum with them rules. Like,
Because you're gonna lose your money if you do any of these.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. I think that was fun.
It's gonna be a hot summer for real estate. I don't care what the rates are.
Facts.
People still gonna be buying and selling. We're gonna post the chart up on our YouTube channel showing you what the rates have been since the 80s.
Historically.
And 6 and 7, 8% is not high, people.
Man, if y'all can pay 25% for a credit card and car notes and Louis Vuittons, then you can pay that 6% for this house.
Oh, guess what? I gotta celebrate my wife. She got her first birdie and her first par golfing this week.
I ain't going golfing with her either. I'm not going with neither one of y'all.
I'm about to get Sophie and Tisha, and they about to take me golfing.
Yeah,
because I got to get on this course.
I'm not going with Reggie either. He's trying to get everybody on.
You better go with me. Go with me now, because next year I'm gonna be a monster, and I'm gonna talk my issue.
Is Justin coming?
Huh?
Justin don't come?
No. Yeah, he on a different level, but he told me how to practice though.
Oh,
he told me exactly what to do.
It's a wrap.
All right.